I came up with, when we were studying Leonardo, I came up with sort of a metaphor, again, a tool. I use Tinker Toys, right? So here's who we all are. This is where you're really strong. You might be, great at math, and you think you're not very good at, you know, creativity or people skill or, whatever it is. And so this is who we mostly all are. And then this is what you want to aspire to. You want to round out your different skill sets, where you have the opportunity to develop. And a lot of people, go with their strengths, and nothing wrong with going with your strengths. But there's a lot to be said for, if you don't understand how to read a financial statement, to learn. It doesn't mean you have to be an expert, but you can understand it. You probably will understand your business better.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today we're going to talk about leadership, but a specific element of leadership, creative leadership. When you think about your job as a leader, do you think you're creative? I know that many times, if you're like me, you can say, I'm very logical or process driven, and you don't bring as much creativity to the work of leadership as you could. Well, if you're just like me, then you'll appreciate this interview with Larry Armstrong. He is the chairman of Ware Malcomb. They're an architectural engineering firm, and he has written a book called Layered Leadership. And the book is meant to help you understand what got them to where they are. And let me tell you, this is an impressive company. Ware Malcomb has been around for 30 plus years. I can't remember the exact date, but Larry was not the founder. Larry was actually someone who was an employee, and they ended up rising through the ranks and then buying the company. And I think he said he's in the process of selling it to now, after he's been leading it for nearly 30 years and then being a chairman for 5. We go through some of the details in there, but I wanted to highlight this for you. I've done more than 1,000 interviews here on the podcast, and Larry is one of the people that stands out amongst all of them. He has always been sharp with his understanding of leadership, and he's always participated in unique ways within our community. And so I really want to appreciate him for that, but also just share to you how amazing his thinking is and how successful he's been with not just the company, but also just in life. And Layered Leadership is the book he has to really document that so that others could follow that path. And so we look at that today. Creative leadership is about using the whole brain, and hopefully that is enough to spark your interest to want to learn more about the concept. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm an executive coach. We do leadership development inside of companies that are facing a really large opportunity. When you have an opportunity in front of you, you want to make sure that you are aligned together as a team. And my work is helping executives understand what's getting in the way of that alignment, help them address that directly. Part of that is I've written a book called How to Have Tough Conversations, because that's a big part of alignment. But when you have alignment, it drives performance. And when you have honest communication about that, you're able to really grow. So that's my life's work, and I'm happy to share it with you. And we do all that in service of you continuing to grow your company and reach the new opportunities that you want to. And if you have any questions about how we could help you, send me an email, gene@genehammett.com. We will have a quick conversation, get to know each other, and I will give as much as I can. I will promise not to sell you, because I really do value relationships. And if you're curious about the work that we do and how we could help, let's have a quick chat. I promise not to upsell you into the program or whatever you may think is rattling through your head, but I will help you be a better leader, help you grow your company. And all you have to do is send me an email, gene@genehammett.com. Now, let's dive into this interview with Larry. Larry, how are you?
I'm doing awesome, Gene. How are you doing?
I am excited to have the conversation. I'm doing great. Had a great weekend. Before we get started into the main topic for today, which is Layered Leadership, your book, give our audience a little bit of more insight. You've been on the show before, but I assume that they did not catch that interview or in the conversation. But tell us about your role as the chairman of Ware Malcomb.
Thanks. Yeah, so Ware Malcomb, we are a architecture, interior design, civil engineering, and branding firm based here in Irvine, California. And we have 28 offices across the Americas. And so we're one of the top, I think, 13th or 14th largest AE firm in the country. And yeah, so I was CEO of our company for 28 years. When I was able to buy the company with my original partner, we were a Southern California architecture firm. And excuse me, and we were able to expand our company and diversify our company over many years. And so almost 5 years ago now, I transitioned to chairman, formed a succession plan, and appointed a new CEO and a new president, and being in the process of being bought out of my company, and it's going great. And I love being chairman.
I bet you do. I have this vision of what you do with your time and whatnot, and I'm glad you've been able to document it in your book, Layered Leadership, which we're going to dive into today.
Okay.
But I also just want to reflect on this. Like, you didn't get there through growth by just acquisition, which is sometimes the easy way. And not that it's easy, because
Right.
it has its own challenges, but you grew from within. You were able to, find talented people and develop them into the leaders you needed them to be, and open up new offices. And that's created the most of the growth that your company has experienced. Would you add something to that?
Yeah, it's for sure. Our preferred method is definitely to promote from within and give people opportunities to maximize their ambitions in their careers in our company. And we've done that multiple times. It was really done for me, and so I was given a great opportunity to buy this company and take it over many years ago. And we decided that, hey, want to try and create as many of those opportunities as we can as fuel to grow our business. And that's been our primary objective. We've done a few acquisitions strategically, but really the main idea is growth through developing leaders inside our company.
Well, I'm excited to dive into your documentation of your perspective of leadership. The book is called Layered Leadership, and I know writing books is not easy. We were discussing this kind of before we cut the camera. The writing is a little bit easier, but the editing and shaping is the hard part in the launching of books. So why did you have to write this book, Larry?
Um, it's really, I wanted to help other people. I think that's really the reason I wrote it. Trying to use the examples of our experiences and how we got there, infusing an idea of bringing creativity to leadership, and sort of a whole brain thinking to leadership, and synthesizing of disparate ideas to help guide a strategic plan. And so all of those kinds of ideas are very important to our growth and in the book. So yeah, the book, I mean, originally I never really planned to write a book, but here we are, and it's quite a fascinating process, and I've learned a lot along the way, for sure.
I don't know if you've ever heard this before, and I can't attribute it to anyone, but the best book you will ever read is the book that you write yourself.
Hmm.
I don't know how many times you read your book. If you counted them, great for you. I know that I probably read How to Have Tough Conversations a dozen times before it eventually got published. And it gets to be a little bit hard to keep reading it over and over. But the reason why I think that quote is important is because it requires you to really understand your ideas in order to convey them to someone else. And you had to sharpen those ideas over and over and over to be able to do that. When I say that, the best book you've ever read is the book that you've written. Does that resonate with you?
It does. Although I don't know if I would be able to say that. Just, but I get what you're saying, and I've certainly read my book at least that many times. Organizing it and how it wants to flow, and then writing it. It was super great. I had a great ghostwriter, and we worked really well together, going back and forth. And it was very iterative, just like design is, which was fascinating to me. And then once we got into, editing, hardcore editing, you keep going back over the same material. And like you said, sort of sharpening it and refining it, and maybe a different word here or there, or, move a sentence here or there.
Yeah.
And you start to go cross-eyed after a while. But it was really actually a really fun experience.
I'm glad you endured it to create this book for us. Every book is based on a problem. And I know that this kind of looks back at your organization and what you guys have been through and kind of some of the challenges you guys overcame. But if I asked you, what's the problem that this book addresses? What would you say?
Oh, wow. Um, I guess it's strategic growth, and it's our approach, trying to bring creativity and best business practices and a willingness, I think, to always learn. Continuous learning, I think, is really key to this book. Um, there's a lot of different concepts melded in here, but bringing learning how to have whole brain leadership, whole brain thinking. Using both sides of your brain, not always being analytical, but bringing some creativity to bear. I think is really important, and it's really helped us. And I think really that's the idea. We've made a lot of mistakes as we tried different ideas, but I think once we found concepts that resonated with our company and that we could apply to a strategic idea to push us forward, I think that it just, and I'll use a few examples. Um, I use this excuse me. I use the visible light spectrum from high school physics class as a metaphor to define our diversifications within our company. So we're diversified geographically and by service type, architecture, interiors, civil engineering, et cetera. Product type, industrial office, advanced manufacturing, retail, interior design, lots of others. But in trying to decide how we were going to diversify our firm, we use the visible light spectrum as sort of a metaphor to say, I can't really see, we don't do custom homes. I can't really see it. We don't do football stadiums. I can't really see those. But we focused in on commercial real estate. So our visible light spectrum for Ware Malcomb happens within commercial real estate. That's what we're experts in. But we were able to diversify very strategically and broadly within those parameters. And so that really helped us. So that's just one idea that we've used and applied in the growth of our firm.
I want to go back to the creative leadership. You've mentioned this. I'm an engineer by education, not by studies. So I have this logical brain that had to be forced into the interpersonal skills of people in leadership. That's one reason why I'm a leadership coach now. So explain to us so that we really can understand the creative leadership that you've been talking about.
Yeah, I think so many examples of that, but I think utilizing, like I was saying, some different types of input to hopefully inspire us in our strategic planning and developing our leaders. I think being willing to meld vastly different ideas together as they fit our firm, I think is been the sort of the hallmark. Um, we're very influenced by Leonardo da Vinci. So he was the ultimate whole brain thinker. He was an artist and he was an engineer. He was an architect. He was a military designer. He designed bridges and roads and he was a great business developer and relationship builder. He was very curious all the time about how everything works. And I think those qualities set him apart. I always call him the greatest genius the world's ever known. So I use him all the time as an example of how we should think, or aspire to anyway, and to round ourselves out. Um, so I came up with, when we were studying Leonardo, I came up with sort of a metaphor, again, a tool. I use Tinker Toys, right? So here's who we all are. This is where you're really strong. You might be, great at math and you think you're not very good at, creativity or people skill or, whatever it is. And so this is who we mostly all are. And then this is what you want to aspire to. You want to round out your different skill sets where you have the opportunity to develop. And a lot of people, go with their strengths, and nothing wrong with going with your strengths. But there's a lot to be said for if you don't understand how to read a financial statement, to learn, it doesn't mean you have to be an expert, but if you can understand it, you probably will understand your business better. So it's it's concepts like that we've applied over time using different types of input, um, to help develop ourselves and our company and our leaders.
Now, let me jump in here. Larry was talking about the strengths of leadership, and there is absolutely a lot of benefit by focusing on your strengths. But in leadership, if you're not a good listener, if you're not a good communicator, if you're not able to align people and build trust, or some of the other interpersonal skills or soft skills of leadership, you will suffer. You will not be able to create the kind of alignment and the kind of success and performance that you want. And so you have to look at the weaknesses and be honest with yourself. And a lot of people struggle with this. I have struggled with it before in my past because there are blind spots, and those things we're not aware of. And when you're aware of the blind spots, you can't go back to not knowing because you know what's holding you back. And so I say this with love and absolutely challenging you. Define your blind spots. Define what is getting in the way of your success, and be willing to grow from it. Be willing to learn. Be willing to evolve. That's the core of my coaching. But I'm not saying that because I want you to hire me. I'm saying that because it is the truth about getting to the next level. And you want to make sure that you continue to evolve as a leader, and whether it's as a partner at home, or as a husband or a wife, as a father or a mother, anything, you want to make sure you're evolving and continue to do that, not just focusing on your strength, but shoring up the weaknesses and being the best you can be in all of those areas, especially in leadership. Now back to Larry. I learned a lot in the book about Leonardo da Vinci because I'm a big fan of his, but I've never read the works that you have and gone to the depths. But one of the things that was new to me was interpersonal skills. Like we see him as an artist, but you highlighted it and you talked a bit about that. And I see that with a lot of leaders that are very strong in certain areas, whether it be, kind of the logical side or the process driven, or sometimes people. But tell us a little bit about the importance of the interpersonal skills that you've seen in leadership as you're developing the leaders to drive your company.
Yeah, and I think that this is a big one because not everybody is automatically oriented towards being gregarious and building relationships and being able to go talk to anybody. I'm certainly not. That was not one of my strengths at all. And that was something I had to force myself to learn over time and try to get better at. And so, we try to understand how to build relationships here in our firm and help our people to do that. And we've studied different ways to do that and implement ideas to help people that want to change and get better at that thing to develop. Strength finders is something we've used a lot, and it's pretty cool. So that you can understand different teammates' strengths and weaknesses, and you can learn from each other by building those relationships. And I think building relationships is key to success, whatever you're doing in your life.
I totally agree with that too. When I was reading the book, I got into it and I started flipping around a little bit just to see what interests me because I didn't have time to read the whole thing. But you wrote about building a world-class executive culture. I think our audience that's listening in today is very much a part of an executive culture. And I would love for you to highlight some of the things that you brought out in chapter 7, teams, not rivals, building a world-class executive culture.
Yeah, I've said that about my executive team for years, that it's a world-class executive team. And I think it's being willing and seeing the need really. To be successful, you have to bring in people with different complementary skill sets, and trying not to make the mistake of just bringing in people that think like you. So I've got, very analytical people. I've got operations oriented people. I've got great business marketing minds. I've got great business developers, great people people that develop our leaders. So, it's a great mix of people that are complementary and that understand also that the main goal is the company. the main priority is the company, not themselves, not some, not competing with their teammate, but helping each other for the benefit of the company and bringing their skill set to bear. And so, our executive team meetings over the years have been fantastic because ideas come from all around the table and are improved as they go around the table with input from different team members. And so, we utilize that mindset throughout the company and try to, develop that idea from around the company and get ideas from around the company to improve it at all times. And so that's where that came from.
I'm going to challenge you to say something. You don't know this in advance, and maybe you don't have a favorite part or section of the book, but when you think about the book as it relates to leadership and what you hope people get away from it, is there one part of the book that really stands out as your favorite that really is the most impactful to leadership?
Wow. Well, let me say this. I think there's a chapter towards the end about succession. And I think, in my observation, succession planning is one of the toughest things you can do in running a business because people have a hard time letting go, and if you don't properly plan over years for succession, you won't be successful. And to me, I guess the ultimate success is developing leaders to the point where you have confidence enough in them that they can succeed you, buy you out, so to speak, and do a great job with the company. And to do that, you have to empower them and teach them for many years, guide them, coach them, bring them along. And so we have, I think, as a hallmark of our company, and we refer to our company as a leadership academy. We do that because that's a main focus, to build our leaders all the time. But I've seen a lot of companies that, and leaders in other companies that really, really struggle with succession planning. It's tough to let go. And I've always said, if you don't start, you'll never finish. And, you wake up one day and you find out, oh, I guess I should figure out what to do with my company. And, you're 75 years old and it's like, what have you done to set that up? And so I think that's an important concept and a very, I think, impactful idea that if people pay attention to that, hopefully that'll help them.
I'm going to jump in here again because Larry was talking about succession planning, and it may be one of the hardest elements of building and scaling a business to the point where you can sell it or you can be the chairman of the business. And when you are the chairman, you're still involved. Once you sell it, you may not be as involved as you want to be, or maybe you don't want to be involved. But succession planning is something that a lot of companies begin to think about, in my opinion, too late. With 3 years left to go on, running your business, and you're just tired and worn out, you developing a leadership academy inside your business is hard. And so we have created some tools and technologies and coaching that allow to support that. But I will tell you, it's not the only thing you need to do. You need to absolutely create succession planning. It needs to be intentional. It needs to be something that is thought through and discussed at least every quarter inside of the development and growth of your business. Just because you hit revenue goals, if you're not developing the leaders around you, you'll turn around and realize that you're just pulling everyone along, and at some point in time it will break. I've seen it. I've helped companies navigate around it. And so I'm just saying this to you from my heart. I want to see you create succession planning, make that an intentional part of your business. And there's many elements to it. We've got some tools you can use. If we can help you in any way, make sure you email me, gene@genehammett.com. Now back to Larry. I'm also curious, and you may not have an answer to this, Pat, because I'm challenging you a little bit here because I didn't give you the answers ahead of time. Sorry for that, Larry. But you've been in this chairman role for about 5 years, and it's a new role for you. And it was, I don't know who played the role before you, but is there a mistake that you feel like you learned from the most, like an inflection point, if you will, as your role of chairman has evolved over the last 5 years?
Well, yeah, I think that one thing you learn is, first of all, you have to kind of force yourself, because I'm, as opposed to leaving the company outright, I'm still here, right, in some role. And so I think as we transitioned into it, I had to learn what to stay out of and what not to stay out of, And so part of my role is I'm still here and I still have, give advice and influence, but, got to give the reins, right, to the CEO to run the company. And so, there was some transition there, even for me who wanted to let go. It's still a little bit challenging, and you have to acknowledge that, I think, and deal with it yourself. I had to deal with it, and I think I'm there. I've gotten there over time, and it was really interesting. 3 months after we transitioned, COVID hit, right? So our new CEO, Ken Week, was left dealing with what are we going to do? How are we going to save the business? How are we going to get everybody to work from home? Blah blah blah. The whole thing, and which he did an amazing job with. And but I would say that's probably took a little trial and error for me to get it right, get out of the way, and but still be there for these guys, kind of thing.
I think it's not only a problem for chairmen, but also the CEOs, when to empower, how to stay out of it instead of, you'd love to jump in, it's a part of your, the baby, if you will, the business is the baby. So I really appreciate you being here. Is there any other things from Layered Leadership that you'd like to bring to this conversation before we wrap up today's interview?
Yeah, I think that, again, the different ideas and strategies that we've used, hopefully somebody else could use. I've been influenced by great business books, which I mentioned in the book. There's obviously everybody's read a lot of business books. I picked a couple that really influenced our company, Good to Great, Blue Ocean Strategy, Jack Welch's book. They've all really influenced us, as well as these metaphors we've put in place. And I think just the idea between melding different ideas and synthesizing those ideas and how to utilize them and apply them to your company or your organization is the key concept here. You don't have to use everything I've used, but the idea of it, the idea of melding these things for the purpose of building people and empowering and delegating and bringing people along to run an amazing business.
I'll add my 2 cents to this about books. I've read a lot. You've probably read a lot too. It's not about how many you've read. It's about how many you've read over and over and over to pull out the nuance and pull out how that it works for us. That's what's helped me in my business. My hope is that Layered Leadership provides the catalyst to a lot of businesses moving forward. And thank you for being here, Larry.
Well, thanks, Gene. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on your show again and talk, and it's always fun. It's always great to see you, and I appreciate it.
Another incredible interview on the podcast. I love what Larry has been talking about of developing people from within, developing and promoting them and giving them the opportunities to grow. Not everybody wants to grow. You probably know that and have experienced that before, but I love what Layered Leadership stands for. And so hopefully you'll enjoy the book as much as I've enjoyed reading it. And I enjoyed this conversation with Larry. And I really, hopefully you'll execute on this in a way that is unique from other books that you might have read. And if we can help you in any way, through executive coaching or leadership development or just team alignment, or maybe it's a tough conversation that's coming up, send me an email, gene@genehammett.com. That's the easiest way to get in touch with me, and just let me know you heard me on the podcast, and I'm happy to give you time to build that relationship and see where things go. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.